Have you ever pondered whether a child could unmask a villain with a single glance? Picture this. You're a 5-year-old sitting in a chilly, daunting courtroom. Directly ahead stands the individual who silenced your spirit. No one can rescue you, except for a loyal four-legged companion, a dog bearing a jagged scar along its spine, its piercing eyes cutting through deception like a blade. Then, in an instant, everything shifts. What transpired to leave the entire courtroom frozen in shocked silence? How did a canine alter the course of a case everyone deemed unwinnable? If you're eager for the answers, be sure to subscribe now and drop a comment. Do you trust in a dog's remarkable instincts? Now, let's dive into a tale where justice isn't solely determined by humans, but by a courageous dog. The atmosphere in the Fairhaven courtroom hung heavy, almost choking, as every gaze fixed on the massive wooden doors groaning open. At the threshold stood a little girl, barely 5, her petite form dwarfed by the room's expanse. Her small hands gripped a frayed leash tightly, clinging to the coarse material as though it anchored her very being. Beside her strode a German shepherd, silent and sleek, its fur catching the faint light streaming through the towering stained-glass windows. A long scar etched down its frame, a mute testament to an untold struggle. Rex. No one in that room could ignore it. Not Amelia, not her mother, not the silver-haired judge whose keen eyes missed nothing. Yet the most chilling response came from the man at the defendant's table, Victor Grayson. He didn't flinch, but a fleeting tightening in his stare, a breath held a heartbeat too long, thickened the air even more. Amelia paused, her grip on the leash instinctively tightening. Rex halted, ears pricked, muscles taut beneath his coat, his breathing slowing as if sizing up the danger ahead. Then, a low growl rumbled through the quiet. Not loud, not hostile, but a clear caution. A shiver rippled through the room, invisible yet undeniable. A child's spirit can shatter under fear, but a dog, a retired K9 who'd F-Rexed the vilest shadows of humanity, knew better. There was only one reason Rex would respond this way. Victor Grayson's facade faltered. The dog's steely glare tore through the flawless mask he'd worn so long. In that moment, as Rex's eyes locked onto him, something broke. No more silence, no more dread. Everything was about to unravel. Victor Grayson sat mute, his posture stiff, hands clasped atop the gleaming wooden table. At first glance, he might pass for a polished gentleman, suit pristine, hair neatly combed, expression serene, as if untouched by the proceedings. But for those who peered closer, the illusion cracked. Too perfect, too restrained. He'd perfected the craft of burying emotion. When Malcolm Reed, the defense attorney, rose, his resonant voice boomed through the Fairhaven courtroom. Your Honor, my client, a model citizen, a thriving software engineer, FREXS accusations resting solely on a 5-year-old's word. A child mute since the alleged event. Silence engulfed the room. Some might argue, a young girl, no reliable witnesses, no tangible proof, just conjecture woven together. The court deals in facts, not emotions, Cooper pressed. But what he hadn't foreseen was a witness beyond manipulation. Rex, the German shepherd, bared his lips faintly, a subtle shift, nearly unseen, but Victor Grayson felt it. He stiffened. Malcolm Reed forged on, his tone steady, yet most missed the critical detail. Victor Grayson no longer held the reins. His once calm hands gripped harder, fingers digging into his flesh, his eyes darting briefly toward Lila Carter. Not with rage, not with fear, but recognition. A slow chill crept up Judge Leonard Hayes's spine. He didn't buy coincidences or meaningless tells. In that instant, he glimpsed something in Victor Grayson's eyes. Not defiance, but panic, like a beast cornered, a man unmasked. The courtroom sank into a frigid hush. Light poured through the towering windows, casting long shadows across the polished floor, silhouettes of people poised for something, though none foresaw what came next. Lila Carter avoided every gaze, voiceless, her blue eyes blazing beneath the harsh lights, fixed on one point: Victor Grayson. Then, a tiny motion, her small hand curled ever so slightly, a silent cue only one in the room could read. Not her mother, breathless beside her, not the judge peering from his lofty perch with shrewd, calculating eyes, but Rex. For a split second, the German shepherd turned statue still, ears snapping forward, gaze sharpening like a honed edge. The fur along his spine bristled, his breathing deepened, deliberate. Then a low, guttural growl pierced the stillness. Not a bark, not an angry snarl, but a warning. Victor Grayson went rigid. His F-Rex stayed composed, controlled, but beneath the table, his hands paled to a ghostly white, fingers clenching tighter, a faint tremor betraying him. A sharp, unshakable chill shot down his spine. No one grasped why Rex reacted so, except Amelia. What she couldn't voice, Rex declared for her. No training could fake a dog's response. No one could force such a reaction unless something was deeply, unmistakably wrong. Suddenly, everyone in that courtroom understood. No one stirred, no one spoke, and in that very moment, a chilling truth struck Judge Leonard Hayes like lightning. Rex knew Victor Grayson, not from case files, not from courtroom murmurs, but from somewhere else, a dark corner no one dared imagine, a buried past. The gavel's sharp crack rang out. Court is in recess for 15 minutes, Judge Leonard Hayes declared, his voice firm yet laden with unspoken gravity. He wasn't easily rattled, but what had just unfolded demanded swift action. Something was amiss. He didn't trust coincidences. A mute child signaling a therapy dog, trained for calm, now growling as if facing a specter. Leonard Hayes had overseen cases for 2 decades, witnessing every breed of crime, liar and victim, some so shattered they no longer knew themselves. But this was different. From his bench, he quietly studied Lila Carter, curled beside Rex, her tiny fingers lost in the German shepherd's thick fur, as if he were her sole tether in a tempest. Beside her, Sophie Turner, her mother, knelt, whispering softly, but Amelia didn't reply. She only gazed at Rex, her one trusted ally. Across the room, Victor Grayson sat still, unmoved at first glance, but Morgan's seasoned eye caught the truth, a twitch in the jaw, fingers tightening against the cold wood. To the untrained, he seemed poised, but the judge knew better. He was scheming. Defense attorney Malcolm Reed leaned in, murmuring something brief and hushed. Harrison nodded faintly, but Morgan sensed it. He'd lost the narrative's reins, and that terrified him. As the courtroom gradually cleared, Morgan lingered, eyes locked on Amelia and Rex. Something larger lurked beneath this case, and he vowed to unearth it. It all began on a tranquil afternoon, until terror struck. Golden sunlight filtered through the trees, bathing Lila Carter's front yard in a warm glow. The 5-year-old skipped across the grass, clutching her cherished stuffed bunny to her chest. In her child's world, only innocence thrived. No fear, no peril. Then he emerged. A man lingered by the half-open gate, a thin smile curling his lips. No haste, no abrupt moves, just a voice, soft, familiar in a way that felt off. "Do you like puppies?" Amelia froze. "I have a litter in my car. They're very sweet, but they need someone special to care for them." His eyes probed her, gauging every tiny shift. One step closer, just a spark of curiosity. That's all he needed. 1 second, 2 seconds. "Hey, you there? What do you think you're doing?" A voice cut through from across the street. Henry Fields, an elderly man with silver hair and piercing eyes, stood by the fence, locked onto the stranger. He didn't yell, didn't overreact, just one-weighted question. Harrison didn't budge immediately. He raised his head, expression calm. Too calm. But there it was, a flicker of hesitation, a mere fraction of a second, and that was enough. Amelia, Sophie Turner, her mother, called from inside, the front door swinging wide. This time, Harrison didn't linger. He turned sharply, striding to his waiting van. The engine roared, tires screeched, and he vanished. Amelia stood rooted, fingers still gripping her bunny. She didn't cry, didn't scream, just stayed silent. From that moment, her world changed forever. Case files sprawled across the table, their pages etched with the FREXS of missing children, young, innocent eyes peering from faded photos. Special Agent Ethan Walsh sifted through the reports, his keen gaze dissecting every word. This wasn't a random snatch, not the work of an impulsive predator. Names, PLREXS, patterns, the fragments hinted at something far darker. 3 disappearances in the last 18 months. Special Agent Isabel Grant's voice was steady but taut. All children, all taken near their homes. And now, a survivor. Jonathan's fingers lingered over Lila Carter's photo. This time, he'd failed, but worse, he'd returned. This wasn't a reckless crook, not someone snagging victims on a whim. He planned, he watched, he didn't force, he didn't need to. He knew precisely what to say to lure a child into his van, without a cry for help. He doesn't pick them randomly, Abigail murmured, flipping another file. Every child's linked. He studies them, waits. Jonathan's brow creased as he pored over the details. He'd nearly succeeded with Amelia, but she remained, still breathing. This wasn't just a case, it was their shot to stop him. Abigail slid another photo across the table. The name beneath it chilled the room. Emma Riley, missing 6 months. She hadn't been found, or rather, they hadn't uncovered where he hid her. Jonathan inhaled slowly, hands balling into fists. It was time to hunt the predator. When Lila Carter returned home after the botched abduction, she was a shadow of herself. No more laughter echoing through the yard. No more tales of imaginary realms. Just silence. Her mother, Sophie Turner, tried everything. Favorite comics, lullabies she once sang along to, meals she'd never refused. Nothing revived her. Her father, James Porter, struggled with emotions, but seeing his daughter curled in her room's corner, clutching her bunny until the fabric frayed, crushed him with helplessness. The therapist proposed talk therapy, but how do you reach a child who'd lost faith in words? Her grandmother suggested the countryside, a P-Rexful escape, but new scenery couldn't uproot the fear lodged deep within. They'd exhausted every option. Then, one day, Charlotte stumbled on an article. Can a dog help a child reclaim their lost voice? It sounded odd, but they had nothing left to lose. That's how they met Rex. On the first day, Amelia didn't touch him, just stood, eyes wide, watching. Rex didn't press, he waited. Day 2, she sat nearer. Day 3, her small hand hesitantly brushed his back. Then, on a warm, windy summer night, when nightmares struck, a miracle unfolded. No screams, no tears, just a tiny hand grasping Rex's soft fur. For the first time in months, Amelia wasn't alone. Every scar tells a tale. Rex wasn't just any dog. Once, his name rang with pride in the K-9 unit. Swift, precise, fearless, a 4-legged soldier. But a cold, rain-drenched night changed everything. On a mission to nab an armed suspect, Rex and his handler, his trusted partner, navigated dark, treacherous alleys. A shout, a flash of steel, Rex lunged before the gun could fire. The suspect never got his shot, but as Rex pinned him, a knife slashed deep along his side. Pain seared, blood soaked his fur, yet Rex held fast until sirens wailed and cuffs clicked. Only then did he collapse. The wound spared his life, but stole his career. No longer swift or sharp, the chases he once led faded to memory. The verdict came, unfit for duty. Rex didn't comprehend. He'd fought, stayed loyal, risked death, but was cast aside. Yet his mission wasn't done. Elsewhere, a 5-year-old bore an invisible scar, and only Rex could help her reclaim what she'd lost, a bond beyond words. Lila Carter stood praxis from Rex, tiny hands clasped tight, wide eyes brimming with wary hesitation. For months, fear had ruled her, but Rex was different. The German shepherd didn't rush her, didn't force a thing, just waited, paws light on the wooden floor, warm brown eyes fixed on hers. No sudden moves, no startling sounds, just patience. Amelia flinched as Rex edged closer, inch by inch, but his gaze held her. No threat, no push, just understanding. The moment stretched endlessly. Then, a small hand reached out, tentative, unsure, but when her fingers grazed Rex's thick fur, time paused. Rex stood still, letting her choose. She gripped tighter, feeling the warmth, the steady pulse of something safe. Across the room, Sophie Turner stifled a sob, tears streaming silently. It was the first time since that day Amelia touched anyone without dread. The room held its breath. Then, ever so slightly, Amelia inched closer. Rex tilted his head, tail wagging faintly, a quiet vow. I'm here. You're not alone. No one spoke. No one dared break the fragile magic. In that silence, something shifted. Amelia wasn't just a broken girl anymore. She'd found a friend who heard her pain without a word. Sometimes silence speaks louder than 1,000 words. The Fairhaven courtroom felt dense, stifling, as if it held its collective breath. Every eye rested on Lila Carter, small and fragile, swallowed by the oversized chair, her tiny hand resting gently on Rex's thick fur, his presence her sole shield. Across the room, Victor Grayson sat still, but something had shifted. He was no longer at ease. Prosecutor Clara Bennett stepped forward, her voice soft yet cutting, like silk-wrapped steel. Amelia, can you show everyone who scared you that day? No one spoke, no one moved. Amelia didn't lift her head, none knew if she could. She hadn't uttered a word since that fateful day. Then, a motion, so slight it nearly vanished. Her tiny hand curled faintly, a signal only one being there could grasp. Rex, lying calmly at her feet, tensed in an instant. Ears snapped forward, breathing deepened, muscles coiled like a spring. Then, a growl, low, brief, but a stark warning. Victor Grayson flinched, a flicker, a single heartbeat, a reflex he couldn't hide. But it was enough for all to see. He knew. Rex had recognized him, and this time, he wouldn't slip away. The hunt began. Wind howled through barren branches around the abandoned Blackridge house, a biting chill sinking into the skin. Special Agent Ethan Walsh stood at the rotting steps base, his sharp gaze sweeping the cracked, peeling walls. No lights, no life, but something lurked within. Behind him, Special Agent Isabel Grant signaled the team. The warrant was set. Now, they'd uncover the truth. The door creaked open, darkness swallowing all. A stench hit instantly, damp wood, mildew, and something fouler. They moved cautiously, flashlight beams slicing the void. A rickety table, a grimy mattress, scattered food cans. Someone had been here recently. He's used this PL Rex before, Abigail murmured, voice steady but tight. Jonathan stepped forward, his light sweeping the dusty floor. Then he saw it. A disturbance, a trail that shouldn't exist in an abandoned house. Footprints, not one set, but two. One large, one small. The room stilled. Jonathan's chest tightened. He'd seen this before. A predator, a victim. A child had been here. Abigail's voice dropped to a whisper. We don't have much time. Jonathan's fingers gripped his holstered weapon. They'd come for evidence, but now they sought life. The moment of truth. Ethan Walsh stood frozen in the pitch-black room, his heartbeat thundering like a war drum. His flashlight swept the shadows until it landed, a filthy rug shoved aside, revealing a steel hatch embedded in the floor. The team halted, no words needed. They all knew. She's down there, Abigail whispered, hand hovering over her weapon. They yanked the hatch open. A shrill metallic screech pierced the silence, followed by a blast of cold, fetid air. Then, from below, a sound, a shallow breath, a choked sob. Jonathan aimed his light downward, locking onto a small figure huddled in the hidden basement's corner. A girl, hair tangled, clothes tattered, bare feet crusted with grime. But her eyes, wide, terrified, yet alive, silenced the room. Emma Riley, missing 6 months, was here. Abigail knelt, voice soft but firm. "Natalie, can you hear me?" The girl flinched, pressing deeper into the corner. But then, through the dimness, she saw Rex. The German shepherd stood still, brown eyes brimming with patience and reassurance. Natalie broke, not in panic, not in terror, but in a silent, wrenching sob, releasing 6 months of trapped fear and pain. Jonathan exhaled steadily. They'd found her. But had they cornered the monster who took her? No more hiding. Emma Riley sat in the hospital room, tiny hands clutching the white blanket, trembling faintly. Her eyes, once pure terror, now flickered with survival. Ethan Walsh watched, chest tight. He'd seen too many lost to the dark. Not all returned. But Natalie had. "Natalie, can you tell us who took you there?" The room hushed. She didn't answer at once, eyes darting as if one misstep would drag her back to the nightmare. Then Rex lifted his head, his deep brown eyes meeting hers, steady, patient, a silent oath. "You're safe." Natalie inhaled shakily. For the first time in 6 months, she found courage. Slowly, carefully, she pointed to the photo on the table. Victor Grayson. The air iced over. No doubt, no waver, just truth. "It was him," she quavered, voice shaky but firm. "He said he'd take me home, but he lied." Jonathan exhaled, the weight settling in his chest. They'd suspected, but now they had proof. Victor Grayson's run was over. Justice loomed. The breaking point. The courtroom pulsed with unbearable tension. Victor Grayson sat motionless, but close inspection revealed hands clenched white. He was calculating. His life thrived on control, expression, voice, every word rehearsed. But now control slipped. The doors swung open. Clara Bennett entered, case file in hand, but all eyes fixed on the small figure beside her, Emma Riley. Still slight, hair loose, her once terror-filled eyes now steady. She'd seen the monster and now F-rexed him. Harrison's jaw tightened, her piercing stare, the child he'd held in darkness 6 months, nudging him back. But what broke him wasn't her. It was Rex. The German shepherd didn't bark, didn't growl, but with one look, he shattered Harrison. Silence cloaked the courtroom as Rex stepped forward, brown eyes boring into Harrison's, peeling away every lie. Harrison inhaled sharply. This can't be, but it was. Not once, but twice, this dog had recognized him. Every denial, every ruse, crumbled. Then, the unthinkable. His hands shook, his voice broke. I want to change my plea." Whispers erupted. Clara Bennett's head whipped toward him. Judge Leonard Hayes's eyes narrowed. "What did you say?" Harrison's breath trembled, head dropping. "I plead guilty." Words no one foresaw. The final verdict. The gavel's last strike thundered through the Fairhaven courtroom, a resounding crack ending months of storm. Victor Grayson is sentenced to life in prison without parole. Judge Leonard Hayes's words silenced murmurs. No escapes, no lies. A predator caged where he belonged. Relief washed through, but the real triumph unfolded elsewhere. At the courtroom's heart, a 5-year-old stood tall. Lila Carter no longer shrank or hid. She stepped forward, small but sure. Lila Carter stepped forward, small but resolute, her tiny hand gripping Rex's leash with newfound strength. No one prompted her to speak, yet she was ready. In the profound stillness of the room, she knelt and PL-rexed her hands tenderly on Rex's F-rex. Then she spoke, Thank you, Rex. 3 words, simple, quiet. But to those who witnessed it, from a mother drained by tears to a judge whose steady gaze never faltered, they carried immense weight. It wasn't just gratitude, it was a vow. She'd reclaimed her voice. Rex, as ever, stayed silent, tilting his head, his deep brown eyes catching the light of a fresh start. As they stepped outside the courthouse, the sun blazed. What do you think of this tale? Do you believe a dog can sometimes see truths humans miss? If you crave emotional, gripping stories, follow for more. Life lessons from this saga of Lila Carter, Rex, and the quest for justice go beyond courtroom drama. It's a tribute to the unseen, the potency of silence, and how the smallest moments can transform a life. 1. Silence isn't weakness, it's a language of its own. Amelia's muteness wasn't defeat, but a wound needing a unique understanding. She couldn't speak, yet she communicated, and Rex, a dog discarded by the system he served, became her voice. Lesson: words aren't the only path to connection. True insight comes from listening, observing, and patiently seeing what's truly being said. 2. Second chances can reshape purpose. Rex, once a valiant canine, was sidelined by injury, his title stripped. But losing that role didn't erase his value. Instead of fighting, he became a guardian in a new way, helping Amelia reclaim her loss through loyalty and quiet strength. Lesson: no failure, wound, or past misstep defines your future. Second chances exist, often leading to a greater calling than you first dreamed. 3. Truth always breaks through. Justice didn't hinge on a grand confession or irrefutable evidence, but on subtle, undeniable signs. A child's pause, a dog's instinct, a moment when lies buckled under truth's weight. Lesson: never doubt truth's power, however buried. It rises when the time's right, often in ways we least expect. At its core, this story is about resilience, trust, and the might of second chances. Which lesson struck you deepest? If you cherish powerful, meaningful tales, follow for more. Fire Rocket.